Muslim world, stoking an already emotional debate. But does the vote reflect a rising trend against Islam across the continent? Or does the referendum simply reflect a rare departure from Swiss neutrality? And is the vote legal in the first place? This is Inside Story. Hello there and welcome to the programme. I'm Nick Clark. A ban on building minarets in Switzerland has been condemned internationally. Before the referendum, polls had shown the proposed ban being defeated, but on Sunday 57% of the Swiss population voted in favour of blocking any new minarets being built attached to mosques. Well, the furor began back in 2005 over an application to build a minaret on an Islamic community centre in the east of the country. The debate went all the way to the Federal Supreme Court, which allowed the minaret to be built. In Islamic countries, minarets are the towers used to broadcast the call to prayer for Muslims, of course, but in Switzerland, as in many European countries, they are mostly decorative additions. Now, the Swiss People's Party argue that minarets are a symbol of the potential Islamification of Switzerland. Muslims make up around 5% of the population in Switzerland, and the Justice Ministry say the vote may actually go against Switzerland's constitution, so may be illegal. Many are now afraid the ban may have serious consequences.
The initiators have achieved something everyone wanted to prevent. We are frightened. 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 We are frightened.
Controversial business, and joining us to discuss it are our guests. In Bern, Farhad Ashraf. He's president of the Coordination of Islamic Organisations in Switzerland. In Brussels, we have Ian Trainer. He's Europe editor of the British newspaper The Guardian. But let's start back in Bern with Oscar Freisinger. He's a member of Parliament from the People's Party and is a supporter of the ban. And Mr. Freisinger, first of all, would you lay out precisely why this ban is a good thing?
We'll be now capable to avoid minarets being built where the people are against it, like in this little country side town in Wangen, where 3,800 people signed a petition against the building of minaret out of 4,500 people. And the city council was against, and there were 70 oppositions, and the tribunal decided this minaret has to be built. And who paid for this minaret? Who's behind this minaret? The Grey Wolves, and that's an extremist group of Turkey, and we wouldn't accept that any longer in Switzerland.
But why? Why precisely is the ban a good thing in your view? Why don't you want minarets?
Because if you can't avoid like in this example, this was the example which was the beginning of all that. If there wouldn't have been that problem, we wouldn't have made this initiative. As soon as we saw that it is impossible on a lower level to avoid bans on minarets, so we had to try to do something on the constitutional level. Because in Switzerland we have to direct democracy. The sovereign here is the people. It's very different
I understand that, Mr. Freisinger. Absolutely, I understand that. But yes. You know, what's the problem with minarets? They're not unattractive architectural features, are they? Or what's the problem? Do they contain rockets or something?
Yes, I see what you mean. The problem is who pays for them. It's most of the time the Wahhabites, Salafists, or like the Grey Wolves or something like that. Groups which are not really don't really accept the society, the state of right, which have some problems with the democracy, and that's the problem. The moderate Muslims don't need this minaret. They have their places to pray. We have nothing against them. They are welcome here in Switzerland. They can even tomorrow or in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years do their prayer, believe to Allah, and whatever they want. It's not a religious problem. We have only a problem with the political or legal part of of Islam where it is in confrontation with our liberal society and our democracy. That's the problem, the only one. It's not a theological problem. It's not Christianity against Islam, or it's not the hate for Muslims. It had nothing to do with that. It's only a legal problem because there are some parts of the Sharia or the Quran which are really difficult to adapt
let's put your points
to the Swiss legal system.
Ashfar. Dr. Ashfar, the problem is whichever way you slice this up, the majority of people in Switzerland have voted in favour of this ban, and democracy has spoken.
Bismillah. After 40 years of peaceful living in Switzerland, of course the Islamic community is disappointed because there was no reason to treat a religious minority in that way, to exclude them from their own decision-taking. But let me at first express my gratitude to the Swiss government, to the political parties, to our sister religions, who all supported us in this quarrel with the right-wing movement, which has misinformed the population by false information. And the result is they have voted in a way which oppresses the Islamic community.
But Dr. Ashfar, you're not crediting the population with a great deal of intelligence, are you? I appreciate the fact that the government didn't support the ban, and various religious leaders around the country didn't support the ban. But nevertheless, the people have spoken. They don't want minarets.
It's right. It's a democratic vote. It's a legitimate vote in a certain sense, because it's in the framework of the Constitution, but in the same sense, it's in confrontation with central values of the Swiss Constitution, like freedom of religion, like forbidding discrimination, like protection of the minority by the majority, and therefore, in a moralic way, it's legal, but it's in a moralic way an illegitimate vote, and I'm convinced that the international community, like Human Rights Court or the United Nations or European Council, will overrule it.
Okay, in Trainer, you're a Europe editor of the Guardian newspaper, a British newspaper. You got your finger on the pulse around Europe. Were you surprised that the majority in Switzerland supported the ban?
Yes, I was very surprised. I mean, nobody would have predicted this rather overwhelming vote on Sunday. It throws up all sorts of interesting. I mean, I think the development here is more nuanced than perhaps just Christian Swiss versus immigrant or Muslim pieces of architecture. I mean, there are many elements to this, and there are many things that you could say about it. In the first instance, one has to ask the question about the opinion polling, for example. The reason that this came as such a surprise on Sunday is that all of the opinion polls in Switzerland, where one expects the standards to be high, professional, well endowed, well equipped, etc., were showing quite a sizable minority were going to vote yes, and that was a bit worrying for integrationists. But nonetheless, they would have lost. In fact, the opinion polls were 20% out. So that raises a couple of issues. In the first instance, how did they get it so wrong? Secondly, were people kind of ashamed